Welcome, everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces and some new faces. So I don't know if this is your first time here at Carondelet, the Mother House, but feel free to walk around and take in its beauty and its history. First of all, thank you for coming this morning. Many of us are very fearful of slipping and falling. And so I know there are a number of you all out in Zoom land or Streamland or whatever we call it, watching, and we welcome you to the screens, but we welcome you all in person. We're so happy to have with us the title of our program, Art for the People, with Laura James. Art has always played a significant part in our expression of faith. Just look around this chapel. It's important for our prayer and our ritual, both personal and communal. So we're so happy, Laura, to have you with us today. She is going to illustrate for us how she reimagines Christian iconography that resonates with people across cultures. So I'd like to begin this morning with a very short prayer. So if you just kind of center for a moment, so that this whole presentation will be a prayer. Holy Spirit of creativity and new life, open our hearts and our minds to be moved and inspired by the gifts of creation. Thank you for the spark of creativity in each of us, and bless all artists who lead us through their work to a deeper contemplation of your love for us and for all creation. Amen. Now, it is my pleasure this morning to introduce Anna Manhart. She is the Art and Design Director at Liturgy Training Publications. Many of you are probably familiar with the publication from your parishes. And she also, I want to thank you, Anna, for gifting us all with this little Glory in the Cross booklet. That's from Liturgy Training Publications. LTP's mission is to develop and print and framing resources that promote the liturgical formation of the Catholic faithful. For over 30 years, Anna, you don't look that old, Anna has designed books, including the Book of the Gospels, which today's featured guest, Laura James, worked with her on. Anna has collaborated with more than 60 artists to illustrate biblical and contemporary collaborated with 60 artists to illustrate biblical and contemporary scenes that adorn LTB's book covers. Perhaps you've noticed them. They also do the liturgical calendar and other art-based projects. So, Anna, come on up.
Good morning. 25 years ago today, our LTP decided to publish the Book of the Gospels with the New American Bible revised text that was released for publication by the USCCB. Now, there is a long and ancient tradition in the East and the West of the Book of the Gospels held high in procession, placed on the altar, honored with sung acclamation, and venerated with a kiss. But a Book of the Gospels in English hadn't been available for a long time, so lectors had been proclaiming the gospel from the lectionary, which is all that they had at the time. LTP's director, Gabe Huck, being an enthusiastic proponent of the arts, had a vision for how artistically adorned our Book of the Gospels could be. At first, our editorial group had in mind a popular Christian artist that we knew, but after some discussion, the artist decided to not take on the project. Next, we asked a prominent American graphic artist who accepted the project and completed a good portion of the paintings, but then died. So we didn't have the art that we would have needed for the publication. But one day, a colleague of mine, Larry Cope, showed me an art rep's mailing that he'd received showing a sample of Laura James' art and said, "This artist would be great for the Book of the Gospels." LTP's director, Gabe, expressly agreed, and then Laura James accepted the project. Since that first major project, we are appreciative for all of the painting that Laura has done for our publications. And now, Laura James.
Thank you so much. Oh, yeah, the clicker. Okay, thank you. Okay. Good morning. Is this too loud? No, it's okay. Can't be too loud, I guess. There's a weird echo. Okay, thank you so much for coming and for inviting me. This is actually the third time that I've spoken with Sisters of St. Joseph, first in Long Island and then in New Jersey. And both locations were beautiful, the grounds were beautiful, and you were also loving and kind. So thank you so much for having me here in Missouri. I'm just going to turn on my screen. Okay, so I'm going to start with my original inspiration for the work I do. So I grew up going to a church with my family. We went to a Brethren church in Brooklyn, and it was very quiet there. No loud music, no pictures on the walls. There were only verses, Bible verses framed, because, they say we're not supposed to image, biblical people. We're not supposed to have pictures of them. But we had children's Bibles. So we would sit in church, looking at our children's Bible while the priest or pastor was talking. We were reading our children's Bibles. They had these really fantastic pictures. Fantastic meaning weird, weird and wonderful, And this is actually a book that I had at home, that we had at home. It was a sort of bigger book. You might recognize, this imagery. This is from the 70s. And, we see Jesus here, who's really, really, really blonde and doesn't look like anybody else. And then you see, the Black person sort of doesn't, he almost doesn't look human. And he's a servant, of course. So, as a young person, you sort of look at these pictures and you're like, well, maybe this isn't really for me. Maybe I really don't belong in this scene, So it makes a difference, even though we may not realize that immediately. And I didn't even really know how much of a difference it made until I came across this book in my library after I had been painting for a long time and remembered these pictures, But when I was about 18, I was walking in my neighborhood and I saw this book, Ethiopian Magic Scrolls, in the window of a store. And, there are these angels and, they were Black. And I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. So I hadn't painted, I hadn't painted. I was taking photographs. I was interested in art. But I saw that everything was outlined in black, and it looked sort of easy. And I said, hey, I'm going to try this. So I bought this book, and I started to, paint. Now, here I'm just showing quickly. These are 3 of 11 rock-hewn churches in Lalibela, Ethiopia. And Ethiopia has been a Christian country since the 4th century, and it had never been colonized. They have a long history of Christianity and even Judaism before that. And there are many stories and just a very rich tradition. These are a couple of images of original Ethiopian art. They're panel paintings, so they're painted on wood, and they would be displayed in the church. And these are scenes from the Gospels. And this is another original Ethiopian art piece, panel painting. This is Our Lady Mary, and artists in Ethiopia were looking at icons from Europe. There's a long tradition of trading and, communication between Ethiopia and Europe. This is a special piece because we know who painted it, a person called Frey Zion. He actually signed his pieces, so we have his name on some of these. And here, I'm just showing a couple more examples of manuscript, Book of the Gospels again. And traditionally, many, I would say probably most Ethiopian art pieces are probably from the Book of the Gospels, stories from the Gospels. Now, these 3 pieces are from that book, Ethiopian Magic Scrolls. It's a very fascinating book, by the way. There is magic there, if you're interested in that. We see here 2 angels and 9 saints here, and this last piece on the right is a demon. And he looks this way because they say that if you've got a picture of a demon on the wall that looks really scary, if a demon sees it, he'll be scared, and then he'll go away. So that's what that is. And so these are actually, I like to say this 9 Praises was the first painting that I did. I don't know that I did anything before this. You can see obviously that I was looking at that book. I was looking at it, and I can't say it any other way than this really is my God-given talent. Because later that year, as you can see, I was painting a lot better. And I really hadn't painted before this. So, yeah. So in the second piece, that's more of, trying to just like imagine different, not copying so much, but just like looking at different things. And I had been looking at Ethiopian art and books and things like this, and just other kinds of art. So I was looking at stuff. And actually, 1991 was a good year, I guess. Actually, in that same year, there were race riots in Crown Heights in Brooklyn, around where I lived, and with the Jewish and Black people there. And I was asked to do a peace mural on the side of the school building. And as you can see, I was noticing this yesterday, I just did that same, 9 angel pattern again. And yeah, that was all in the first year. The other photograph on the right, you see there's a small angel. I painted the bigger angel, and then also 11 angels around the community. So actually, I curate art exhibits and things like this. And several years ago, I was curating an exhibit of photographs for James. Oh, I said James Shabazz. That's not the right name. Jamel Shabazz, And I was looking through his folders of all of these pictures, and I saw this picture with one of the angels. So I had to include it here. Yeah, very cool. So, yeah, we had big walls in our house in Brooklyn, and this piece, King Solomon and Queen Makeda of Sheba, is a very popular Ethiopian story, and painted many, many times. And I said, oh, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try to do one of those. And pretty much the way the different boxes are set up is pretty standard. So it was huge, a huge wall, a huge painting. And so I did some more like that. I like to tell stories. I like to be able to write the words so people can read it and see the pictures and really fully understand. So I was happy to take these three on. These are just some more early pieces. Okay, now for the Book of the Gospels, why we're here. Yes. So sometime in the 90s, I exhibited a few pieces at the American Bible Society, and I met a woman who suggested that I have my work with Bridgman Art Library. It was an image bank where people go to get images to license for different publication. And I did. They took on my work, and maybe a year later or so, someone called me and said that a publisher wanted to commission some new work. And since they don't, they're not agents, they don't do that, would I want to be in touch with them? And I said, sure. And it happened to be Gabe Huck from LTP. And you can see Gabe on the left there with his wife, Teresa. This is a more recent picture. Gabe was director of LTP from 1977 until 2001, the year the book was published. There is a backstory. The two pics on the left are from a celebration for the release of the book in Chicago at LTP's headquarters in 2021. And you can see Larry Cope that Anna mentioned earlier. Yeah, Larry was the champion of getting my work in front of LTP. Representation matters, and who's in the room matters. It does. Thank you, Larry, wherever you are. Okay. And here we have the book cover. And not being Catholic myself, I really didn't know. And also growing up in a church that, basically shunned art, it was when I got the book in the mail, I really didn't know what to expect. I will say that, as Anna mentioned, the person who was doing this project passed away mid-project, and they had a deadline. And so they used some existing work that I had, 11 pieces, I believe, and then I had to make 24 new pieces in 4 months. So it was a lot. And I just sort of did it in a whirlwind. And so when I got this book in the mail many months later, it's like 11 pounds, and I had no idea. And I was so touched by it. I was just thrilled. And these are some pictures, publicity shots of the Book of the Gospels that LTP sent. And these are a couple of pages from the book with this ascension and washing feet. Here we have Anna and Simeon and Pentecost. So, as I said, they used some existing work. So this painting here, the Easter painting, was one of the first pieces I did in '93. And they used 3 images from this story scroll. And here we have Jesus walks on water. I love to paint. I'm looking at the pictures on my iPad. I like to, I like the waves and the clouds, and I just love it. Okay. And here, these are other pieces I did in existing work. Jesus feeds the 5,000, Jesus calms the storm. I remember someone brought, they heard I was painting whatever, and they found 2 stretched canvases that were the same size, and they said, hey, you want these? And I was like, sure. And I made these 2 pieces. And this is obviously new paintings, and this was the cover art with the 4 evangelists. And here we have Mary and Elizabeth. And, just looking again, like as I was preparing this, it seems so simple. It's like I like the work. It's just very simple to me. There's not, even though there are details or what have you. It's just, I don't know. There's something about it that I like. These this slide is a little out of place because these first 2 pieces are older. They're existing, and the last one I did for the book. I will say about this first piece here. This is one of my one of my very first pieces in '91, and that year, again, someone in the neighborhood just asked if I wanted to have my art in a show in a community center or something that was up the block, or, and I was like, sure, here, take this. And she actually sold it for $250, my first sale. And it was just amazing. And I said, wow, I didn't know this was a thing you could make money at. Anyway, so that was Mary and Jesus. And here we have Joseph and Shepherds at Night. More new work for the book. And this is Jesus' baptism. Again, it's just like very simple. This is John the Baptist and Jesus with creatures. And the Good Shepherd. And so obviously there were words above there. And yeah, this was really a fun project now that I'm looking at this again. And it was the first time that I had ever illustrated, had to make paintings that were going to be in a book like this and had to consider where the words would go and all of this. So, yeah. And this is Little Girl Arise and Lazarus. And Man Born Blind. I have Mary and Elizabeth snuck in here again. These are 3 pieces with women. So we have the woman at the well in the middle and myrrh-bearing women on the end. I don't really know where I'm just looking at these again. It's so interesting to see because now it's been 25 years, so I've been looking at them for 25 years, but they still look good, as I look at it on my iPad. Thank you. And this is Just As We Are One. And this is sort of, Jesus is just talking to his disciples and others at the sort of towards the end of the story there. And I remember it's like the title is Just As We Are One. And then they're like, make a painting. I was like, what is it supposed to look like? So, you know, sometimes with the Bible, you could get a sentence to make a painting out of, you know? But I think it captures the spirit. And this is Fish for Breakfast and Emmaus Story. Actually, Fish for Breakfast and Man Born Blind, we have the originals here today. So they're in the other room, and afterwards you can have a look. Oh, well, Emmaus Story, if you notice there on the podium, not podium, on that pedestal, there is the sketch, the original sketch that I made, which I donated to the church. And I was looking, again, as I was preparing this, I was looking through my stuff, and yeah, actually the sketch was kind of nice. So I said, hey, I think I'll donate it. And it was the first time I had done something like that, so yeah. And this was an existing piece. Oh my goodness, 1991 again. I don't know what happened in 1991. Anyway, this was The Last Judgment. So they used a piece of this, I think the central piece in the book. And this piece is called Love One Another. I was talking about this today with someone here, about this love. This is kind of interesting because Gabe Huck, again, you know, he was asking for a picture with lots of people. And he said, because before this, I had always painted everyone brown, some shade of brown. And he asked if, you know, if I could paint other colors. And I was like, oh, sure, why not, right? And, you know, and older people too, you can see. And there were even a couple of babies in there, you know, so this was sort of broadening what I was doing. And happy to do it. Because yes, there are all kinds of races. It's not just one, not just the brown people and not just the white people, right? So I was happy to paint this piece. And, you know, love one another is the name of the piece, and we need to do that. So I'm just sharing some, you know, how the project moved forward. I exhibited paintings from the Book of the Gospels many times after it was published. And this one was at Mokata, which is a museum, it was a brand new museum in Bed-Stuy at the time. This was actually in the top floor of a brownstone. And now they're having their second building built down in downtown Brooklyn. So the museum has expanded, and we're proud of that. But this was a nice exhibit where we showed most of the pieces from the book. And here I'm showing a card from, I think it was the second exhibit that we did, with paintings from the book at Cardinal Egan's office. He was the Cardinal of New York at the time. And the exhibit was organized by Brother Tyrone Davis, who runs the Office of Black Ministry. That's Brother Tyrone. And he's a real champion of my work, just, you know, making sure that everybody saw it, which is really great. And that was a wonderful exhibit. And I could really tell that the Catholic women, especially, and the people that were in attendance, and because they told me too, they really appreciated seeing this work. And here I'm just showing, I had a 15-year retrospective in 2007, and we borrowed most of the pieces from the Book of the Gospels and showed them all together, which was really great. And I have a picture here with some of the collectors. Oh, yeah. Okay, so in 2015, someone said to me, they were like, oh, I saw your book or I saw the Book of the Gospels in this movie. I was like, oh. So yeah, it made an appearance in this movie, the Spike Lee movie in 2015. And in 2016, the book cover won an award, a Gold Ink Award. And Anna sent me this picture of an ordination mass in Uganda, where they're using the book, which I'm getting a chill right now just thinking about it. So this is another funny thing. Every year, Office of Black Ministry has a special Black History Month Mass. I don't know if that's still a thing or not. But anyway, this was in 2021 during COVID. So most people joined online. And so this was at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York. And again, as Anna was saying, I'm sure you all know about the Book of the Gospels, but for people who don't know, it is quite special to see it come in, held in procession and with the shiny cover and all. It's nice. And yeah, again, randomly, one of the pieces was in a Chance the Rapper video. It's kind of strange. My niece showed me that. And this Love One Another, I was commissioned by the College of New Rochelle to make a big version of that painting for their library. And Law and Order just happened to be shooting in the library. So they asked if they could keep the picture. And then I have to throw this in here. Another random, someone in Florida decided to do a cover-up tattoo with Jesus Comes a Storm. That was a commitment there. I was like, oh, okay. And also that piece was made into a puzzle. So in 2020 again, U.S. Catholic, they just emailed and asked if they could show print a few of my paintings. So I sent them along and said, yeah, sure. And when I got this magazine, first of all, it was on the cover. I didn't realize it was going to be. But then also there's this wonderful article where the writer is encouraging people to use the work to teach and to, show and to have it available in their churches and all. So this was really nice. Okay. So here I'm showing some images of the Book of the Gospels used in print. Through over 25 years, people have been licensing the images. So it's really nice that, you have, the pictures are able to go out, to be appreciated. I will say about this first piece here, this was, I think it was actually the first book that I got in the mail with my art in it. I was like, wow, this is cool. And I remember showing it to my father because the Jesus on the other side is the, Jesus that we used to have hanging in our house. And so I was like, look, check this out. And he was impressed. I think it was the first time that he was impressed. But he was like, wow, okay. Because he didn't know what I was doing. And so he was like, And here are just a few more. These are from different countries. Yeah. So actually, the last cover here, the Bible documents, is not from the Book of the Gospels, but it's the first cover that I made for LTP. Yeah, so I just included it there. These are 2 calendars that I did for LTP, their annual Year of Grace liturgical calendar, usually, I guess, purchased by schools, Catholic schools across the country and other places. This is the parables and woman of the Bible. And this was, well, so I did one in 2005, one in 2015, and then in 2020, we did Death and Eternal Life. And here I'm just showing how, I make a painting, and so there's the space. So I wrote Bible text, but LTP, obviously they made magic and put it together as a calendar. And here are just another couple of posters that I did for them in 2010. These are available today too, actually. So I'm just going to wind down now, talking a little bit about some recent projects. In light of my own experience growing up in a church without art and not really feeling welcome, to be honest, or not even to say welcome, but just like, I just wasn't sure, like, if this is something I wanted to be involved in, to be honest. But, this was in, I guess, 2021. I was commissioned by the Sewanee Seminary in Tennessee to make a crucifix that would replace a traditional crucifix that they had. And, this land was actually donated by slave traders who didn't want to be involved with the Northern Episcopal Church because, they were against slavery. So they made their own seminary. And so here we are. They're wanting to change the narrative, I guess. And I was happy to do this work for them. Yeah, it was a real honor for me to be able to do this. And here I'm just showing, the kids again. Sorry, yeah. I don't remember where the school was, but they commissioned this Our Lady painting in the background. And here I'm showing, I got a package in the mail with, letters and pictures from students in the school and somewhere. And they did I'm pretty sure it was a religious school. They did a workshop or they did a section on my work. And so the children painted their own guardian angels. And I like to show this picture because, they didn't paint black angels, and that's good because, they paint the angels to look like them, and that's good, and I really like that. I like that they didn't just copy what I was doing and they did their own thing. And then here, these are a group of Catholic girls who, from a girls' school, who came to visit an exhibit at the Sheen Center. And so this is a slide of Discerning Deacons. They are a group that are working to see women become deacons in the Catholic Church. And they've used my piece, Phoebe, a number of times. Phoebe is a deaconess in the Bible. And let me look at my notes here. They gave a print of the piece to Pope Francis a few years ago. There was actually a lot of writing on the back. They have a point to make. So it wasn't just about giving the piece. And again, Discerning Deacons, last year, they were in Rome again, and they gave a print of this piece, which is called Receive Her, that they commissioned me to make. So Future Church is another organization that is, I don't know the right word, I guess agitating and working towards female deacons in the Catholic Church. And they were also in Rome last September. So they commissioned this series with Rita Houlihan and Future Church commissioned this series, which is called The Stations of the Resurrection According to John, completed last year. I actually started with 4 pieces, and then they wanted to add more to sort of make it a full stations. So, everything here is taken from the Bible, but Mary Magdalene is not proclaimed. She's not spoken. These passages where she's particularly spoken about are not read aloud on Sundays. I'm kind of, I'm not Catholic, so I don't know how it goes exactly, but they don't read about Mary Magdalene. She's basically not spoken about, but she's in the Bible. So it's, the aim of this whole project is to create images that can be reproduced to spread the scripture-based images to as many people as possible. That is their goal. And these 2 pieces, I guess, are probably 2 of the most important pieces from that series, which are the commissioning of Mary Magdalene. Usually, there's the scene where she meets Jesus in the garden. He's like, "Don't touch me," or whatever, but no, he actually commissioned her to go and tell more people about him. So, and here we have Mary Magdalene proclaims the resurrection. So we're actually, this is a work in progress that I'm working on right now. And we're going to be exhibiting these pieces next month at St. Mercy by the Sea in Connecticut. This is a work in progress, beginning with the scenes preceding Mary Magdalene finding the empty tomb, which was the previous work. So here we have the healing of Mary Magdalene. They're further along than this, thank goodness, because they're almost done. But yeah, this is the healing of Mary Magdalene, Joanna, and Susanna. And I was thinking how this is the first time I've painted demons. I painted 7 demons and also lepers. And I was thinking to myself that even though I've been doing this for 25 years, there are so many stories and things still that I haven't painted. I mean, I haven't even touched, there's so much in the Bible, so many stories. This one is this one is the traveling ministry. And apparently there aren't many paintings, showing, Jesus walking with the people, but especially not with women, which he absolutely did because, it says so in the Bible. And it also said that they supported him and his ministry, which means that they supported him with money, which is why they've got the bag. They've got the bags. And this one is the parable of the sower. And Jesus predicts his death and rising. So this series this is the first 4 of, I think, 11 or 12 pieces that we're working on now. And it's really interesting to think about it. People commission art or can commission art to get a point across. And that is actually what they did to get get a different point across. But that's exactly what they did. They commissioned pictures that they wanted to see. And so this is what Future Church and Rita Houlihan is doing. So in closing, I just want to show this piece. It's called The Second Touch. And it's part of a commission for a group called Christianity Deconstructs Racism out of North Carolina, Durham, I believe. And I believe this piece is at St. Francis Retreat Center there in North Carolina. And this is from a story from the Gospels where Jesus touches the eyes of a blind man, but he doesn't see clearly the first time. And so Jesus touches him again, and he sees clearly. And so the idea is they want viewers to take a second look at these scenes of racial injustice and reconsider what they really mean. And so we'll end it there. Thank you so much for listening. And I'm very happy to be here. This is my first time presenting about the Book of the Gospels, and I'm grateful the work is still getting attention, so thank you. And I love you, you're great, thank you.
So we'll take some questions now, and if you just raise your hand, Maureen or Kay will come to you with a microphone.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello.
I'm so excited. I can't believe you think the work is simple, but I do need to know, is your medium acrylic?
Yes, acrylics, yes.
Just beautiful, but you can see shading and just everything so detailed.
Thank you very much.
What are the representations of the animals you have? You have the angel and you have the three. Could you explain that?
I believe it's an eagle, a ox, and a lion.
The evangelist.
Yes, the evangelists.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Me? Okay. I was wondering what's the actual size of these paintings as you painted them? I mean, we've seen the pictures, but in reality, are they all
the Book of the Gospels pieces, they're all, actually we have two in the other room, and they're all about 16 by 20, so not very big. And I had to make a lot of them in a short time too, so, right.
You started off with a children's book at the very beginning. Is there in the works a children's book with your art related to the New Testament?
Did God hear that? No, not in the works, but it is something that I would love to do that. And also, I think that the Episcopal Church maybe might be interested in a book of the gospel or in a gospel book. So other denominations use this book. And that was the sort of special thing about it too, that it wasn't just Catholic, And actually I was at a Lutheran church where they have like photocopies, like they photocopy the text and put them in, on, where they wanted to read from the Book of the Gospels, but not with the Catholic texts. Anna doesn't like that. She's like, yeah.
Hi. I was wondering, on the paintings that you did for the Book of the Gospels, did you pick out the parts of the Gospels that you illustrated, or did LTP tell you which ones they wanted? What were the...
Yes, they told me exactly what they wanted, and they sent the page so that I can see where the text was. Because, they had been very far along into this project. Yeah, so they knew exactly what they wanted.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, I just want to thank God for the gift of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My spirit is just really edified. I have been looking online at your stuff for a while, trying to see what we could use. I am the director of the Office of Racial Harmony and Black Catholic Ministries, such as Brother Tyrone is in New York. And yeah, thank you. So we're always, looking for these kinds of things. One of the things that you said this morning that also touched my heart is that representation matters. And you have gone above and beyond in doing this. Back in the early 70s, I think there was a project from Africa that was pretty similar, and it's not available anymore. And so my question is, how do we get permissions in our parishes, African American parishes? We process in with your book every Sunday morning.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And so how do we get permissions? Because we also, in the African American parishes, we don't use the typical breaking bread musical books. We sing gospel music, and so we publish our own worship aids, if you will. And so how do we get permissions to use your art on those?
We're friends now, and I'm going to talk to you afterwards. I'll give you my card. But you can find me online, Laura at laurajamesart.com. Okay. You're welcome to email me, anyone. Thank you.
Thank you. I was wondering, the one picture that looked like a winding staircase in a mansion, and there were three or four women dancing at the bottom of the staircase. I wondered who those women were supposed to be. I think they were dressed in black or white. I can't remember.
I'm not sure if I...
But...
a winding staircase. A painting or a photograph?
Oh, I think it was a painting.
Yeah, I think she might have been talking. I'm not really sure.
It'll come. It reminded me somewhat of the Alvin Ailey dancers. Yeah.
Love that.
Oh, was it a photograph? No, she says.
I think it was.
Yeah, from the movie. Let's see. This one? No, she's talking about a photo. Well, I'll find you later and we'll figure it out. I have it printed as well.
I wanted to say I was very impressed by your color, how you use color. Would you call those icons? Okay. They really stand out and they really touched me. But I don't know if I understood you correctly. Did you say you had no formal training in painting?
No.
So you did all this with your natural talent. I think it's amazing. Really, thank you.
Thank you.
Laura, my question is, individuals and organizations commission pieces with an intent or with an idea for an impact. What, across the wide spectrum of your work, what do you dream, what do you hope is your impact?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. Very basically, I guess I could say just common ground with people. I mean, maybe I might get off topic, but even you speaking about, the African American church, and the different books, and I understand we are different, but we are also humans, right? So why do we have two different books, That's another story for another day. But I want, common ground with everybody. I want everybody to love one another. That's crazy. Something that was said 2,000 years ago. But this is what I would like to see. I don't know if I'm going to see it, but.
I too want to thank you for your beautiful representations of the gospel stories. For what it's worth, right now as we're looking at, that picture of the Sacred Heart never touched me either. So when I saw your art, and the first time I didn't realize it was your art was in the liturgical calendar when I posted it. I find myself, obviously I'm white, really identifying with it. and saying, yes, for one thing, I know Jesus was, Mid-Eastern. And so many of the pictures that didn't touch your heart didn't necessarily touch our hearts either, but your current pictures do. And I think that speaks to them, the universality, which is what you first started out with, that across culture, So just from a personal experience, they touch my heart, and obviously I'm white.
Yeah. And because the heart, right? Like, what color is the heart, right? And we're connected to that source. So that's what, that's what's connecting us. It's the heart. Yes. It's not the color, and the outside package. Yes. I feel like I've seen so many of you before.
I was so
I
struck, Laura, by the origins, the Ethiopian origins of your own inspiration. And even, I just think, the eye of the Ethiopian who saw Christ, who way before Europe and other places. You reminded me of that today, and I thank you for that, because it's like the doorway into our love for art and Christianity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss James. Visuals can be very controversial. The Catholic Church was very involved with Hollywood and having like a code. And like in Orthodoxy, the early councils of the church, icons were like what the Latin people would call a sacrament. But then when Islam came about, they forbade icons for a while. And then they brought them back again. A woman named Irene, after Islam, and they said, okay, no more councils of the church. They defined orthodoxy as icons, but the icons were under the church authority. Do you run? I know that Christianity, there are many Catholics on our Supreme Court, and I know many politicians are getting back to being Christian again. Do you face people who want to put you in certain, I don't know, whatever formats?
Well, I started making these paintings because I wanted to and because I was inspired. And so people come and find me. I don't go out and say, use this and do this with it. And, I'm not doing that really, but I have plenty of people who come to me and find me. And so, we're able to kind of work together. I really don't find that I get opposition, except, I will say, from people who don't, I'm not going to say believe, but who don't resonate with Christianity or Jesus or anything like this. But, myself included, honestly, for a very long time, because I didn't see myself in that. I just didn't. But I realized that it's not about Catholicism or the Bible or any of this. It's about that source energy and that spirit that we have as human beings, that we just, you can try, but it's hard to get away from it because we hear these, we're connected, right? And so I find that people who kind of just want to be human and, just something positive, they find me. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's all I got.
Oh, can I ask a question? Okay, all righty. There were a couple things I wanted to ask you about. First of all, do you like to work on wood, canvas?
I like linen canvas.
Linen canvas?
Yes.
Okay, and you just kind of put it like gesso over it? Or, yeah, okay, all right. And then I love the fabric and the patterns that you have in your work. And I was wondering with the some of the textile fabrics, is that things that you came up with or some things that you've researched or both?
Well, in the original art and just all different kinds of iconography, because I like icons from all over the place, not just Ethiopia. There are usually like lots of little details. And so I do like patterns and color and little dots and, just like little repetitive things. And so I love to make a painting and paint lots of like design patterns and things like this. So
Makes them move.
yeah,
Too.
yeah.
Yeah. And then one last thing I really loved is your painting with taking the second look. I mean, that gospel was I just read it a couple days ago. I know I read that gospel, and but it was just inviting or suggesting, this is the gospel story that, you need to take a second look sometimes at what's really going on. And it continues to go on regarding racial injustice. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much.
Well, good morning. I'm Marie McGeehan. I'm the Director of Mission Advancement at the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet. Thank you so much, Laura, for accepting our invitation and being with us here today. It's wonderful. Thank you, Sister Linda, for your beautiful prayer. Thank you, Anna, for introducing Laura. Thank you to Marie Andrews and our communications team, our dietary and maintenance team, and all our volunteers who made this wonderful morning possible. So please, let's give them a hand. And thank you to you, our friends here in Holy Family Chapel and who are joining us live via live stream for being part of today's mission moment. Laura's presence here and today's extraordinary experience would not be possible without you and your support of the sisters. We are extremely grateful. So thank you. Okay. So right now here, we are in a holy spiritual moment. Laura, thank you for this moment.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You and your work embody the mission and charism of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet to live in profound love of God and neighbor without distinction. You remind us of what we can become. When we recognize the unrepresented, when we build a bridge to the dear neighbor, we are the great love of God. Let's not let this moment go to waste. So thank you for the many mission moments to come.
Thank you.